Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast and iTunes #1 kids and family podcast. Thanks to your loyal support. We have a wonderful guest on today. One of my absolute favorite guests here, talking about one of my favorite series of all time, the Phyllis Wong Mysteries series. And our guest today is the author, Geoffrey McSkimming. You know, I was mentioning that the Phyllis Wong Mysteries, it's one of my favorite series, and not just one of my favorite middle grade series, one of my favorite series of all times. It's a really, really fun series, and I'm so happy that I found it. I know when you're looking for a gift for a curious young person that you love, you really dream that gift is going to become one of their favorite gifts, something that they look forward to being with and spending time with. Well, I have the perfect gift for you for this holiday season. Little Passports is the perfect holiday gift for curious kids of all ages. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month with engaging hands-on activities, interactive projects, and unique souvenirs just waiting to be discovered. Little Passport's monthly subscriptions are designed to spark children's curiosity about geography, world culture, or science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica to building a Big Ben like the one in England or making an ancient Greek headpiece, every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It's the perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. And you can order today at littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. Joining us on the line right now from Sydney in Australia. He is one of my favorite authors. He's also right now one of my favorite people in the world. Very understanding guest. He's the author of the Phyllis Wong Mysteries. We have a brand new one coming out called the Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds. Please welcome to the show, Geoffrey McSkimming. Geoffrey, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jed. Thank you for having me back on your show. It seems like hardly any time at all since I was last here.
Yes, what Geoffrey's referring to is we had a great conversation, and we're just about to say goodbye, and my system froze. So we're going to do it again. It was a great podcast, and this one will be even better, I feel.
Yep, here we go. That was a dress rehearsal.
That's right. Well, we're here to talk about it, and it really is one of my favorite series, not just one of my favorite kidlit series or one of my favorite middle grade series, one of my favorite series, the Phyllis Wong series. It is such a wonderful series. There's so much I love about it. But before I go on and on, tell us just a little bit about Phyllis and who she's based on and what the new book is all about, please, Geoffrey.
Well, Phyllis Wong is a young magician. She's a stage magician, and she's quite incredible. She uses her ways of thinking as a magician to try to get to the bottom of crimes, to try and solve crimes and mysteries that she comes across. And she's a great character. I love Phyllis Wong. I based her, in fact, on my favourite magician. My favourite magician, apart from you, Jedley, is my wife, Sue Ann Webster. And Sue Ann's the inspiration for Phyllis. Phyllis is she's a girl. But one of the things I've found out about, being so close to a really fantastic magician is that magicians think differently to other people. I'm not saying they're better than other people, but they just think differently. They have to think differently to make sure their tricks are working and to stay one step ahead of their audience and to just anticipate any situation that might happen when they're doing a magic trick. And so Phyllis, because she thinks differently, she can use her ways of thinking to try and see into crimes and mysteries that are out there. And in this new book, Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, she comes across a crime a mystery that happened in the 1950s, and it's never been solved. The police have never been able to solve it. And so Phyllis, as soon as she discovers a mystery, she gets all ready and she sets herself to the task of trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and Phyllis is really, really clever. And you hit on something. Magicians do think differently. And we look at the world differently. And you get that from reading the Phyllis Wong Mysteries. And I think it's really a beautiful thing, not because it introduces kids to the way magicians think, but it helps kids understand that people think differently. We don't all, there's some things we look at something and it's like, why can't you see what I'm seeing? And the fact is that they're looking from a different perspective, different experiences, different beliefs, and they do see things differently.
That's right. And just because people think differently doesn't mean they're not as good as anyone else. Mm-hmm. It's so important. This inclusion is so important. Diversity is so important. Acceptance of different ways is so important. And that's what I love about Phyllis. She gets out there and does things. She's a great character. And her best friend is a boy called Clement. And I love him because he, the wonderful thing about writing these books, because Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds is number 6 in the Phyllis Wong Mysteries. And the wonderful thing about writing series is the characters develop. And that's what I love about writing series. You know a little bit about the characters when you start, but the more stories you tell involving them, the more they start to take on a life of their own, and they start to almost to speak their mind when you're writing the stories. Often I'm writing and they'll start coming out with dialogue and start saying things that I had not planned. They just they take over the story just about. And Clement, Phyllis's friend, he's a different sort of character. He's 1 year and 10 days younger than Phyllis, and he's an eccentric sort of boy. He's, as we know from previous stories, he's taken an interest in disguises. He loves disguising himself, and this comes in very handy in some of the stories, to get out of certain situations and to get into certain situations. And he's also very technologically adept. He's very clever with new technology and thinking, and he's quite artistic as well. So he's a bit different in all those areas. And she, of course, she doesn't bat an eyelid. He's her friend. They go along together. They do these things together. And there's other friends she has as well in the books, of course. And there's some surprises in this new book, in this new story. There's some surprises I won't say too much, but there's some surprises to do with friendships as well.
And I love that about the book, the friendships, and friendship is so important. It's so important to the story. It's so important to Phyllis. And Phyllis has this fierce loyalty to her friends. And as I was saying earlier in our dress rehearsal, I met Phyllis many years ago in Volume 1, and at that time, my son had just experienced middle school and had been the victim of a bully in middle school, and he wasn't able to tell us about that. It was a girl who was a year older than my son who came to his rescue and stood up and said something about it, and that was the catalyst for us being able to help him. And so that, I just love that about Phyllis, that she's inclusive and she wants to be friends with everybody, but she doesn't tolerate when somebody is hurting one of her friends.
That's right. No, she's got great integrity, and I'm so glad that your son, that there was somebody there a bit older as well to take care of your son. That's wonderful. On the bullying thing, in the Phyllis Wong stories, there is an undercurrent, not a major theme, but there is an undercurrent of bullying. Phyllis gets bullied because she's different, because she's, some people, because she does magic, and she does magic in the school playground and magic on stage, because she does magic, some people, and you'll know who they are when you get into the stories, some people perceive that as a threat because for the simple reason, I think, that Phyllis can do things that other people can't do. And so people feel threatened by a situation where that happens. And in this story, Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, that some of that bullying from the past moves into this story in quite surprising ways. I'm not going to say much more about that, but it took me by surprise when I was writing. That's what I love about writing, Jed. When I started the story, I had it planned out, but I thought, will this happen or not? And I was not going to let a certain situation happen unless it happened in the context of the story unfolding. I wasn't going to force it into the story. And lo and behold, bang, this situation came up and it happened, and my goodness me, it's a surprising. It took Sue Ann, my wife, when she read it, it took her by surprise. It even took me by surprise as the writer. That's the magic thing about writing and telling stories. When something happens that you think might happen or you don't even anticipate, it can knock your socks off. Yeah. Luckily, I have a lot of pairs of socks, so when they get knocked off, I just put another pair on and keep going.
I do love that, and I'm excited. I can't wait to get my copy of Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, because if you're surprised by the story, then I know I'm going to be surprised by the story, and the other readers are going to be surprised and delighted by the story, I'm sure.
I hope so. This story, it's number 6 in the mystery series, and this story is, of all the stories, I think it's the most pure detective story. Phyllis really puts on her detective hat. She discovers a mystery that happened in 1956, and the police have never been able to solve it. And one of Phyllis's other friends is Chief Inspector Barry Inglis, who's the head of the Fine Arts and Antique Squad with the Metropolitan Police Force. And he helps her out in the stories occasionally with police information that she's not privy to. But he gives her the background on this mystery that happened in 1956. Basically what happened was, there was a world-famous pianist named Isabella Beaufort, and she was gifted the most wonderful emeralds necklace. It was called the Flirtus Emeralds Necklace, and it went missing. One day in 1956, it went missing, and no one ever found it. So, of course, when Phyllis finds a mystery, it's like red rag to a bull. She has to see if she can get to the bottom of it. And so that's where it starts. It's the most sort of pure detective story that she's been involved in. And I really, as I wrote it, it's taken me 14 months to write this story. It's one of the longest ones it's taken me, because I really had to get everything right. I really had to make sure there were no holes in the plot and that everything was tied up, because detective stories have to be all accounted for when you read them. And I think it works.
Yeah. And I know that you are a huge fan of detective stories, especially those old classic detective stories.
Oh, I am. I love Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers and all. You know what? The funny thing is, my favourite detective writers, they were all women. They were all women from the golden age. You know, like I said, Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers, Marjorie Allingham, a lot of others, Naomi Marsh, a lot of them. And I think women did it so much better than men. And I don't know why that is, but I think maybe they enjoyed the gruesome parts of the murders more than, I don't know, but it's a fascinating thing. So I'm not a woman, so I just hope I've done the genre a bit of justice. And I hope Phyllis does it. I think Phyllis does it justice anyway, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about history, but before we do, one of the things, you bring history to life, and I think you spark an interest in history in a couple of different ways. First off, Phyllis has this amazing ability to transit that you can tell us about if you want. But the other thing you do in the Phyllis Wong Mysteries is that you kind of revive language and words that we don't hear often. We certainly don't hear them in everyday conversation. And it's not a situation where you're taking a big word and you're just kind of showing off your big vocabulary, but the words fit. And it really helps paint the picture of the story and what's going on, and it really helps move the action along. And it's really, really a fun part of the book. Geoffrey will be back to tell us a little bit more about his love of language and vocabulary and discovering words and language and inspiring kids to discover new words and use new words. And, you know, our friends at littlepassports.com/reading, they're all about helping you spark that curiosity in the lives of the curious kids that you love. LittlePassports.com, it's the perfect holiday gift for curious kids of all ages. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month with engaging hands-on activities, interactive projects, and unique souvenirs that are just waiting to be discovered. Little Passports monthly subscriptions are designed to spark children's curiosity about geography, world culture, or science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica to building a Big Ben like the one in England or making an ancient Greek headpiece. Every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It is the perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. And you can order yours today by visiting littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. And it really helps paint the picture of the story and what's going on, and really helps move the action along. And it's really, really a fun part of the book.
Oh, Jed, thank you. That's right. I love words. I love the richness of the English language, which is language I write in. I often say to kids and to young people when I go and do author talks, sometimes I'm asked, oh, you've got a lot of words I didn't know in this book, or you've got a lot of big words in this book. And I say, well, I'm a writer and words are my tools. Mm-hmm. And a good, rich vocabulary is like my toolbox. And I don't put words in, as you say, just for the sake of putting big words in. I love to use words that are maybe a bit forgotten now, or words that are colourful and not used so much anymore because they're maybe a bit longer and people don't like saying longer words. I don't know what the reason. But I love using rich words to keep the story a little bit different and to keep it rich, to keep it colourful. And as you say, Phyllis does transit. By that I mean she's inherited this gift of being able to travel through time. She got the gift from her great-grandfather, who was a world-famous magician. His name was Wallace Wong, Conjurer of Wonder. And he had this gift of transiting. And one night in a performance on stage in Venezuela in 1936, Wallace Wong, Conjurer of Wonder, vanished. He disappeared. And he wasn't seen again, on stage at least. And Phyllis has inherited this gift, so she's able, through the stories, to go to different times. And this is a way that not only can I find little pockets of history that have been forgotten about, and I can tell stories about them, but I can also find language and words that have been forgotten. For example, in Phyllis Wong and the Waking of the Wizard, she transits to a medieval time to meet the main character there. And I found some great words when she went back there. There was one word, the word is wamblecrops. So Clement, when he went back with her, he got the wamblecrops. That's wamblecropts. The wamblecrops means he got a tummy upset. Now we'd say he got a stomach ache. But in those days, they would say wamblecrops. And there are all these wonderful words that have become archaic and just forgotten and pushed onto the dust pile of history. So I love to be able to resurrect those words in the stories. And I don't put the words in just for the sake of big words. I put them in just to keep the story going. And one of the things I love about the fact that Phyllis can transit is I can use that to explore little places in history where things don't get thought about much anymore, where they might have been forgotten. And there's all sorts of places out there where she can go and try to get to the bottom of things.
Yeah. And I again, like I said, you kind of spark an interest in history. And the Phyllis Wong Mysteries is absolutely, we always encourage families to read together. And sometimes it's awkward with your middle school kids or your high school kids to sit down and read aloud. But I think the Phyllis Wong Mysteries is absolutely one of those books that you can sit down as a family and read aloud, take turns, play with the words, play with the character voices, have fun pronouncing some of the words that you're not familiar with. But also, when you're in the story and Phyllis goes to another time and another place, you can kind of close the book and then start talking about it. And let's see what that time was really like, and is this accurate, and how is it accurate, and how is it different?
That's right. Because I do a lot of research, I travel to a lot of the places that are here now, where the stories are set in the past, and also I do a lot of reading and a lot of, looking at things. Because I do a lot of research, it's interesting. I know a family who actually do read the Phyllis books aloud, and people can go, and see what I've taken from history and what I've changed. For example, in Phyllis Wong and the Return of the Conjurer, it centres around the time of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. I just love Shakespeare's works, and I did a lot of research into his theatres in the, the 17th century. And I based that largely on historical fact, but I did change some things, especially at the end of the story. But I did change them so they could be plausible. They could still have happened. And that's what I love doing. And similarly with the magic that Phyllis does. Phyllis uses her magic to get to the bottom of things. And in this book, Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, she really uses her magic throughout the story to augment what happens in the plot. And the trick she does, Sue Ann helps me because she's my magic advisor as well. So she'll help me with the magic. So the tricks are all authentic, but occasionally in the story, I'll change the trick a little bit. So the trick could still be done, but Phyllis puts a different sort of slant on the trick to make it more her own sort of trick. So yeah, I take things that are there and using my poetic license, I change them round a bit.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't thought of this before. Not only does the Phyllis Wong Mysteries spark an interest in vocabulary, spark an interest in history, but it also, I think, sparks an interest in magic. And this is one of the neat things because Nine Diamonds Press, the publisher of the Phyllis Wong Mysteries, and your amazingly talented wife, Sue Ann Webster, the Australia's First Lady of Magic, she has created a book called Astounding, and we've talked about it here on the show. So anybody who reads Phyllis Wong and says, I think I might want to be a magician, should absolutely pick up Astounding because it is an astounding book. It is, I said it on Amazon. I said, this is the best magic book that I've encountered.
Oh, it's a great book. She's put her heart and soul in that book, and it comes through. Not only is there magic in there, but there's also great chapters on how to perform, how to be a performer. Because so many magicians today know how to do magic, but they don't know how to put it across. And that's one of Sue Ann's big things. And she shares secrets of how to perform and how to perform confidently and with presence and, how to do all this. And Phyllis is a great performer too. And as I say, she's based on Sue Ann. I get a lot of performance things from the way Sue Ann gets up on stage and does her things. I think the magic is great. As I say, Phyllis's magic comes from Wallace Wong, her great-grandfather, and he was working in an age when magic was still really big before television came in. And so we have a lot of, in our house here, we've got a lot of very old, repros of old magic props made by, great people like Norm Nielsen. He made them in the Okito style. So we've got Sue Ann in her performances actually uses a lot of the old props, which a lot of magicians for young people at least, don't do. They don't use the beautiful old props. And Phyllis uses the old props. And in fact, getting back to Sue Ann's book, Astounding, the last trick that Phyllis does in this book, Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, the last trick that Phyllis performs for her friends is a very simple trick. It was the first magic trick I ever saw when I was about 7 or 8 years old, when I was a child. And it's actually in Sue Ann's book, Astounding, as well. So if people read Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds and they want to know how to do that trick, they can learn how to do it from Astounding by Sue Ann Webster.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me, and I want to get right back to Phyllis Wong, but one of the things that struck me about Astounding and that I love so much is that Sue Ann begins by talking about being respectful of the audience. And I think that is something that is missing in almost every aspect of theater these days, and especially in magic, just understanding that you're not there to make fun of the audience and make them feel like a fool, like you're better than them. Really, the idea is to go out there and to elevate them and make them happy and to be respectful of them. And that is certainly what Sue Ann does in her performances, and I love that she puts that across in her book, Astounding. One of the things,
absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things that you shared with me that I was really surprised about is what you were doing when the story of Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds came to you. You were doing something a little bit different.
Oh, yeah, Jed. It was very different, actually. This is where the story came from. Last year, I was phoned by one of Australia's, I think Australia's finest artists, an artist named Avett Plough. And Avett, I'd known Avett for a long time. About 20 years ago or so, he did some of the early covers. He did watercolour paintings covers for some of the early Cairo Jim books. And we've got some of that artwork, actually. We bought it from him and it's framed in our house. But he rang up last year and said to me, look, I'd like to do an oil painting of you for the Archibald Prize, which is a big Australian art prize. I'd like to paint you for this thing. And I thought, oh, no, I don't want to be painted. But I was persuaded by Sue Ann and by him to do it. So eventually I said yes. And so I had my portrait painted. And it's a really weird experience. I'd never ask to have my portrait painted, but in this case I was asked. So I did say yes. And so he painted this huge portrait. It's really big. It's over 6 feet tall and 3.5 feet wide. It's an enormous canvas. It's large. It's literally larger than life. Some people say I'm larger than life. They usually frown when they say that, but some people say I'm larger than life, but this really is. And and anyway, it's a really weird experience. I had to go over and pose. So when you're posing, you're standing still for a long period of time. And I was posing in my kilt with a cloak on, with 3 very heavy books on my arm. And on top of these heavy books, there was a skull, not a real skull, but a plastic model skull. This was something the artist wanted. And I had a quill feather in my hand. And so you hold these poses for a long time. And it was so uncomfortable that I actually put my leg out. All the muscles in my calf, in one of my legs, just seized up. And so for about 3 months, I couldn't walk properly. And people would say, oh, how did you get the injury? And I said, well, I was posing for a portrait. And they'd just look at me and they'd frown again. But, because most people think, oh, you got the injury from playing football or baseball or something. But no, I was standing there doing a portrait. But anyway, when you're standing still for a long time, you've got time to think because you can't move very much. And I started to think, well, maybe this is a good opening for the next Phyllis Wong story, which was starting to form in my head. And so Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, it starts off around a painting. Phyllis is going to have a costume fitting at a shop called Mademoiselle Rondette's Boutique for the Discerning and Vivacious. That's where she gets some of her costumes made. And she's getting her costume, she's having a fitting, and she sees in the shop this beautiful big oil painting of a woman wearing this emerald necklace, the Flirtus emeralds. And she asks about it, and one thing leads to another. She finds there's a mystery. And so it all comes about because of a painting. And that painting came about because of an experience that I had in getting painted.
So Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds, it's number 6 in the series. Now, I've read all the books, so I can definitely pick up Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds and know, just go right into it. Does somebody need to go back and read number 1 through 5 first, or can they pick up number 6 and enjoy it?
No, they don't need to read them in order. You can read them in any order. Each book, each story, I give a little bit of the background to some of the other characters who are in the other stories. I give a little bit of the background to, what Phyllis has been up to, but you don't have to have read any of the preceding stories before them. One of the wonderful things about the blurbs for these books is you can just dip into the blurb, go and check them out on Amazon, just read the little, 6-line blurb, and, different stories might appeal to you. For example, Phyllis Wong and the Girl Who Danced with Lightning. That centres around the story of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it centres around how the movies were made about Frankenstein and all that. So if that's up your alleyway, you might like to read that. Phyllis Wong and the Return of the Conjurer. It centres around Shakespeare. And so, if you're interested in the life and times of around the time of Shakespeare, that might be one that you might want to dip into there. Phyllis Wong and the Waking of the Wizard. It goes into the world of Merlin, or Meerden as he was known, the great wizard, and that all this stuff from the past, and also the history of theatre. There's all this vaudeville and stuff in there about ventriloquists and stuff. So there's different themes in the books, but they all come back to the same thing. They're all mysteries that Phyllis solves. But you can read them in any order. And if I refer back to another story, I just do it in a little one-line footnote, to give a clue as to what I'm referring to. But you don't have to have read the ones before.
Excellent. And now you're mentioning Amazon. You're doing something special for Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds. It's going to be out officially in December. We're speaking here in November. You're doing something special for folks.
That's right, Jed. We're doing something we haven't done before. It's up for pre-order now, available for pre-order. And if you pre-order it, it'll be published on the 15th of December. If you pre-order it up until the 15th of December, you'll get a 25% discount. So you'll save 25% on the price. We've never done that. And the other thing with Amazon is you pre-order it and you actually don't pay until it's published. So you don't have to pay until the 15th of December, but you'll still get that 25% discount. And we're doing that because I just want people to read it. I just want it to get out there and to get into people's hands and onto people's, e-readers and devices and stuff. And yeah, we just, like a Christmas present, really.
Yeah, it's a wonderful Christmas present. And I know that anybody who picks up and reads Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emerald is going to become addicted, and they're going to go right back and read 1 through 5. And if they're anything like me, they're going to absolutely go out and check out the Cairo Jim series as well. Another great series that Geoffrey has created.
Oh, I hope that's lovely. A lot of people do that. A lot of people. You know what? The wonderful thing about series is that when you get into them, the characters become like your friends. It's like you're really there with them. It's like you're really in the plot with them, in the story with them. A lot of people say to me that they read these stories and it's like they're seeing a film because the locations are so real and they feel like they're next to Phyllis or next to Cairo Jim or whatever. They feel like they're, one girl wrote to me years ago about the Cairo Jim book. She said, I love these books. When I read them, I feel that I'm there with Cairo Jim riding along in the saddle on Brenda the Wonder Camel. And I thought that was a lovely thing to say because, it's if you feel that you can get into a story so deeply and so realistically, then the magic of storytelling and the magic of good writing really is working. And one of the things too is it's not just now that those stories remain important to you. I know right now that there are people who read the Cairo Jim stories because they've been around for a while. I know there are people who read them when they were young, and these people are now like in their 20s, 30s, and the stories still mean a lot to them. In fact, in Sydney, here in Australia where I am, in a couple of weeks, there's a theatre production based on Cairo Jim in Search of Martin Arton, and that's being produced here in Sydney, and the producer and the director and the adapter of it, she's a young actress who grew up reading the Cairo Jim books and she's loved them ever since, and that's why she got the rights to do this, and she's making a theatre production of it. So stories stay with you for a long time, stories that mean a lot to you. And I think, that's why we do it. We love telling stories. We love having those special friendships with, fictitious characters who may not be that fictitious because they're so real.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I know we can go to Amazon right now between now and December 15th and pre-order Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emerald and get that 25% discount, which is talk about a fabulous Christmas gift, holiday gift. You're out and you're shopping for everybody else. You can save a little money, get something for yourself or for your loved one. But where can folks find out more about Phyllis Wong and Cairo Jim and all the things that are happening in Geoffrey McSkimming's life?
Oh, that's easy, Jed. We've got websites. We've got a YouTube channel. The websites you might want to go to is Phyllis Wong's website, which is phylliswong.com, phylliswong.com. You can go to our YouTube channel, which if you just go to YouTube and type in Phyllis Wong or 9 Diamonds Press, that's our YouTube channel. And we've got trailers. We make trailers for every one of our books. Sometimes we've got 2 trailers for the books. We've just put up a teaser trailer for Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emeralds. Sue-Ann made it. It's just a 20-second trailer. We'll be putting up the bigger trailer in a week or 2, I think. That'll be going up. You can go to the 9 Diamonds Press website, and that's the number 9 diamondspress.com. 9diamondspress.com, and you can sign up to our newsletter there. You can sign up to follow us on BookBub. We have all our books on BookBub, and then when we do other special deals later on, if you sign up there, you'll hear about the special deals that happen there. Because throughout the year we do offer special deals on the books, just so that people can, if they want to get them, they can get them for a discounted price. They don't happen often, but we do that. But yeah, on our websites and our YouTube channel is the best place, and we're on Facebook. Phyllis Wong has a site on Facebook. 9 Diamonds Press is on Facebook. yeah, so we're out there in the social media. So just look for Phyllis Wong and you'll stumble across her.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I absolutely want everybody out there to stumble across Phyllis Wong and the latest book. It's going to be out December 15th. You can pre-order it now and save 25% at Amazon. Phyllis Wong and the Vanishing Emerald. We've had such a great time talking to my friend Geoffrey McSkimming. Geoffrey, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you for having me back, and thank you. It was lovely doing it twice. I feel like I know you very well now.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be J. Robin Albertson Wrench, going to be talking to us about mindfulness for kids. A great, great conversation for the days leading up to our Thanksgiving here in the United States. Hey, you know, a great way to help your kids be mindful of the world around them, to be curious of the world around them, is with our friends at littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. It's the perfect holiday gift for that curious kid on your list. With a subscription to Little Passports, kids get a fun-filled package each month designed to inspire their curiosity in geography, world cultures, or science. It's great for kids of all ages, and you can order today by going to littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. Hey, we want to thank our friends at Little Passports for sponsoring the show. We want to thank our buddy Geoffrey McSkimming, not only for being on the show, but, well, for doing the interview twice because the equipment crashed. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much for always taking the time to make the world a better place, to make your kids' lives better by taking the time to read to them. I'll be looking for you on the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.